All right, welcome back to the Echoes of Fear, second season. Wow, yeah, we made it to a second season. I'm your
Season
co-host,
number
Jason Hewlett,
2.
and that was
Sorry.
Kenton J. Moore. Here we
Yeah,
are.
I'm talking over. Oh, yeah, season 2. I'm Jason Hewlett. I'm going to talk over you. Sorry, Jason.
All right. So, and we ended last season on like a pretty heavy note. Actually, the whole last season dealt with some pretty serious subject matter in terms of fear and what people are scared of. This season, we're going to start with something lighter, and we'll have a few more lighter episodes dispersed. But Kenton, you found something I almost find unbelievable to kick things
Yes.
off with. So
Yeah.
what do you got for me, sir?
All right. So today we're going to talk, my friend, about the rarest specific phobia in the DSM, well, just in phobia records specifically. It is so specific and so out there that to hear about it for the first time, it's hard not to laugh. Like keep in mind that, phobias are severe and irrational fears of an object, irrational being the key word. So, today we're going to be talking about arachibutyrophobia,
What's
which is
that?
the fear of having peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. See, even I'm laughing.
I can't like really?
Yes,
Like
yes.
really?
So people who suffer from arachibutyrophobia, basically it's a severe and irrational fear of having the peanut butter specifically, and that's why this phobia is so extremely rare. Is it's not honey or any other sticky substance. It is specifically peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. And I mean, we've all kind of been there. I remember having peanut butter sandwiches on non-toasted bread as a kid, and it just turns into like paste.
Mhm.
And then you sit there and you're like trying to push against your palate with the tip of your tongue, trying to scrape this crud off. But it's a fear of the choking or the inability to speak that comes with it, right?
That is so fascinating. I've never run into, obviously because you said it's super rare, anyone that's been actually scared of that happening, like ever, ever.
No, and it's so exceedingly rare that there's just no data. There's no data whatsoever. 5.5 to 9% of people in the United States, which is the easiest place to find this kind of information, have a specific phobia. So specific phobias are that common, 5.5 to 9%. Right.
Okay.
But arachibutyrophobia, being just phobic of peanut butter to the point where, you have physical symptoms and you're afraid of, even you could be triggered for panic or anxiety attacks, even like tasting peanut butter in as an ingredient in something or tasting peanuts in general, or you could have the trigger by seeing peanut butter, right? Like it's so rare that there's no data whatsoever on it. And, in a lot of the research I was doing too, when people present with these specific phobias, very little medical records actually state what the phobia is. They'll just state that this person is suffering from a specific phobia. So when it comes to gathering data, a lot of the times the researchers and stuff end up pulling all these medical records that just say patient presents with specific phobia or non-specific phobia or whatever. I don't think they're going to say in the medical records patient is phobic of peanut butter sticking to the roof of their mouth, so
Somewhere out there, someone's who has this phobia is listening and is really mad at the fact that we're making light of it.
yeah,
You
they're
can just
just going to be
tell,
like,
right?
"You dicks, you dicks." But I mean, the whole point of this podcast too is to talk about these things and to educate people and to illustrate how they affect the stories that we tell and explore it in pop culture and stuff. And like I'll tell you right now, I did a significant amount of research and I could not honestly find any example anywhere of a movie or game or TV show where somebody had peanut butter stuck to the roof of their mouth and like died, you know.
No, or a serial killer that would use that as part of their repertoire of murdering
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
right? Like,
I mean, I to be fair, I've done it to my dogs enough to be considered abusive.
well, I know, and I think
So,
everyone has, right? Even cats, you give them a little bit of peanut butter and just watch them,
yeah,
like,
right. It's
but
it's entertaining,
yeah,
yeah.
this is
But
crazy. Like, this is what I was even thinking when, like, how the heck are we supposed to talk about how it influences writing and pop culture or anything like that?
yeah, and here's where, our this season two for our listeners that have been with us since the beginning is going to differ from season one. In season one, we did a part one and a part two. So we did a part one about the facts and a part two about the pop culture. But in season two, we're going to be putting them all together and we're just going to jump through all of it at
Yes,
one time. And, that lets us kind of explore, well, one, lets us explore more phobias and fears, but also it's more organic conversation between the two of us, right? So,
that's right. So now we got to figure out how to have an organic conversation
well,
about
and
this topic.
here's my challenge to you, and
Okay.
this is where before we started recording there, I was saying I'm kind of going to blow your mind a little. Let's talk for a second about the root of arachibutyrophobia.
Okay.
So the root of the fear is, the having something stuck to the roof of your mouth, right? So
Yeah.
being a specific phobia, specific to peanut butter, there are triggers, right? And most of these types of phobias will have been because of some, excuse me, experience or predisposition, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like the phobia itself, mechanically speaking, isn't necessarily that they're terrified of the peanut butter sticking to the roof, even though that's definite definition is that they are. But specifically, it's having peanut butter adhere to your palate and the sensation that follows, like choking, difficulty breathing, or difficulty with speech, right?
Okay.
So if we think of those things, one of the first examples in pop culture that comes to my mind that I've always been like, oh man, it gave me the willies when I first seen it was Toad in the first X-Men movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but I do.
Yeah, do you remember the fight with Jean Grey and Cyclops and Toad and all them in the Statue of Liberty when Toad like spits that stuff of his on Jean Grey's face and it
Okay.
like
Yeah.
sticks over her mouth and it like forms into that hard crud and she's panicking trying to get it off. And I started to think like when I started looking at it from that way, I could really see how somebody would be terrified of peanut butter sticking to the roof of their mouth, like just not being able to remove it like that.
Yeah. I could see that for sure. Or even in the Matrix when Neo's being interrogated before he even knows that he's in the Matrix, and
Yeah.
they do the weird thing where his face starts melting, so it covers his mouth and he can't talk or breathe. I
What
could
if you
sort of see
didn't
how
have a
that would
mouth?
work.
Yeah.
That's kind
Yeah.
of getting extreme. So I guess maybe then, yeah, you look at it as the ability to remove speech, speech
Yeah,
at
or like
random,
a
right?
fear of speech or a fear of choking or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too when you start getting into the root of the fear, like then it makes a lot more sense. And when you get into part to pop culture, oh man, like go down the rabbit hole. How many times have you seen horrible things in people's mouths that they just can't do anything with? Like even the recent James Gunn Superman movie when he had that the nanotech girl going down his throat into his lungs.
Oh
He's like
yeah.
pulling it out of his mouth. I was just like, ugh. It's just that kind of stuff gets me. And as I do have a pretty bad gag reflex, so it's kind of starting to make a lot more sense when I come at it from that angle. So it's kind of fascinating, don't you think, how when it comes to these phobias, for some of us that don't have them, to try to put ourselves in the shoes of somebody who does, you got to reframe the issue. And I think that's how we approach this one is reframing it into terms of like, you know, give me an example, like where in your life, Jason, have you encountered some sort of choking or gagging experience that was terrifying for you?
I can't honestly think of one.
You're lucky.
Yeah, no, because I have like I mean I've been sick obviously and it's kind of gross. But it was like 9 years ago when I was landscaping one summer. It was like November 1st. It was the day after Halloween. And sort of just before Halloween, my son had gotten sick with the flu. And he kind of was just getting over it in time for Halloween. So he kind of got through Halloween. But I had stayed up late because it was Halloween. It was like my favorite night of the year. And I had gone to work the next morning. And I thought I was just like, really tired and maybe a little bit hungover a little bit because I'd had to have extra drink that night. And we were working in this yard and it was cold and we went for lunch and I went and we ate at Burger King and then we went back up to the job site and I was working. I was talking to my coworker Craig and just in the middle of the conversation I started throwing up.
Oh
And Craig
man.
describes it as someone turning on like a pressure washer hose. It wouldn't stop. And I'm wandering all over the yard, like, sorry, listeners, but it was like projectile vomiting all over this yard. And just when I thought I was done, it wouldn't stop. And so, like, after it felt like, it was like that scene in Monty Python and Life, The Meaning of Life, where the fat guy just starts vomiting and then explodes kind of thing. And when it
Yeah.
finally stopped, Craig's just like, so do you want to go home?
You think? Do you want him to
Like, and I
stay
went and I
here and
buried
keep
everything, all
painting?
the gross
Yeah.
stuff in the yard and went home. And that was the end of my season because I was just and I guess I got the flu, but I didn't really realize until I'd eaten lunch and had significant food in my belly that it was just like, no, you're
No,
done, man.
here it
I guess that's
comes.
the
Yeah.
closest because it wouldn't quit.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up and stuff too, because like I'm a sympathetic puker, so if I had a seen that, I would have been like, "Whoa!" I'd have been joining
Me
you,
two adults is throwing up all over
just
this poor
throwing up all
person's
over the
yard.
place. It would not have been a good thing, and I say that with the full knowledge that there's people out there that are going to be listening to this that are dying of laughter right now. Lee, I know you're listening, and he like they abused my my gag reflex and my sympathetic puking thing for their own entertainment for most of my life. Like Lee specifically, we used to carpool together to work, and if I'd yawn, he'd try to poke me in the throat, just just so I'd be like, "Ah," while I'm driving a car,
Oh, what a dick.
dying of laughter. He'd just be laughing. But anyways, yeah, no, like for me, my personal story with this kind of like choking and not being able to control your breathing or any of that. When I was a kid, I was deathly allergic to bees.
Okay.
And like when my brother and I were jumping around on an old wooden deck and we knocked a wasp nest down and both of us got stung pretty bad. But I became super sensitive to them. And I remember once when I was about 11, I was doing my Sunday chores with my mom, and my favorite thing to do was clean windows. And I'm sitting there in our living room in our house. We had a double wide trailer, but the one side was lower than the other, so it was like a dropped living room. And there was a French sliding glass door there, and I'm sitting there and I'm cleaning the door, and I kneeled on a wasp, and it stung
Oh,
me in the knee, right? And I was like, oh no, oh no. And then my throat started closing up before I was able to find my mom. She was over at the neighbor's house having coffee. And I had to try to get over there to get her. And by the time we got there and she started rushing me up to the hospital, I was already passing out,
wow.
and like had my throat closing. And that was a terrifying experience for me. And because of that, I've spent almost the rest of my life afraid of needles because of this sting,
Yeah.
feels similar, right? Not phobic, but just I don't like them, and stuff. But it was just it's one of those things where I can empathize with what somebody suffering this phobia must feel because I know what it's like to have that, like that inability to breathe. That it feels like you have no control. There's nothing you can do, right?
Yeah, and that is would be a horrible. Like I know I felt that with the vomiting experience. Like it was just like this isn't like I've been sick before, and you go to the toilet and you let it out and you're done. But this is like it would not stop. It
Yeah.
was just like, what's going on? Like, how long is
Yeah.
this going to go on for? You know?
Yeah, and like where's this going to end?
Yeah. What else is going to come out? Like
Yeah.
now that we've begun this process.
Nothing
Um,
left but air.
yeah. Um, so yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, Kenton, because I mean, people get scared of things, right? Like, and people who don't have that fear don't get it. So it's about learning, I think, how to be empathetic towards people
Hmm.
who do have some of, I say, any phobia, because it's irrational and uncontrollable on their part.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and and again, it's learning how to put yourself in another's shoes, like seek to understand, so to speak. And when you think like you could hear the term Arachibutyrophobia, and for me, when I first heard it, I thought, well, why Arachibutyrophobia? That's weird. It sounds like spiders, right? It's
Yeah,
so similar to arachnophobia. But arachie is the Greek word for legumes and peanut type plants, right? And butyrol is the I think it's the choking or whatever.
yeah,
I
that
can't
makes
I can't
sense.
can't remember. I have to look it up again because I know I had the where the word came from.
It's an odd sounding one, you know.
Yes.
It's so maybe yeah, it's choking or the sticking to the teeth to the sticking, you know what I mean, thing component of all that.
Yeah. 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 So but anyways, to continue the what we were talking about, like it's such an odd thing to have when you hear peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth. It's like that's a phobia, like you think of a phobia, you think, oh, well, social anxiety is the number one phobia in the world. Okay, well that makes sense. There's a lot of people in the world and people kind of suck.
Yeah, and people
Yeah.
don't like to be, especially after the pandemic. There's been a fear of being in crowds and groups. I've seen that in a lot more people. I
A
even
lot
don't
more,
like it as
it's
much as I used
way
to, you
more
know?
prevalent. Yeah, way more prevalent. So you hear these things and they all make sense and stuff, but again, it all comes down to that thing that where if you're psychologically predisposed or you've had a specific triggering event, so maybe you were a baby or something and you had peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth and you were allergic,
Oh
like
yeah.
God, it could be anything. So seek to understand what causes this thing for people and then understand that it could be rooted in other fears or it could be rooted in specifically an event that occurred to them at some point in their life that was extremely traumatizing for them, that causes this irrational fear. And you get, like it affects your daily life. You know what I mean? Like I can't imagine, being terrified of peanuts. I mean, I love pho and all those different types of soup so much. It's
Oh gosh, yeah, right. Same. I like my Reese's peanut butter cups. Like
oh,
they're the
Thai
best.
peanut sauce. Oh,
There's so
but
much good stuff there.
yeah, again, the DSM talks about this like arachibutyrophobia too. It says that the phobia can stem from a generalized fear of choking, which is known as pseudodysphagia, or a fear of sticky textures, right? So
Yeah. So that in that context, it all makes perfect sense.
yeah, yeah, it really does. And I mean, again, when you talk about pop culture, well, yeah, sure, there's no movies or TV shows or games where somebody has peanut butter stuck to the roof of their mouth, but there sure are a lot of movies and video games where people are choking on things like, you know, Candyman with all the bees. Like,
Oh yeah, I was even in the most recent Conjuring movie. There's a scene where something happens and this girl starts choking and she starts pulling this huge piece of glass out of her mouth, like
oh God, yeah.
huge, and everybody in the theater is just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think if I could sit here and if the listeners can sit, like comment on the video too, like tell us a movie or a TV show that you remember somebody choking on something, pulling something horrible out of their mouth,
yeah.
like it's pretty much in almost everything.
Every horror movie has had a moment where that's in. Not everyone, but I'd say every second to third one has some
Yeah.
some scene just
And,
like that.
like here's another perfect pop culture example, like modern pop culture example. I'm watching Alien Earth right now. What about
Oh
the
yes,
face huggers, right?
That's it. That's you know what, and that's a great one. Because that was that alone. I remember the first time watching that movie was horrifying, and then everything that
Hmm.
happens after that just becomes more increasingly horrifying. But the fact they started that way and they thought up, like Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett thought that up as a way to kind of basically impregnate people. Like
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
Yeah, parasitic, but humans are, and like parasitism isn't nothing new. It exists all over in the world. You've got like bot flies, for example. Human bot flies are absolutely terrifying parasites and stuff, right? But not to that level, obviously. But the whole thing of the face hugger, like something sticking to your face and you not being able to do anything about it, is if that's the root of this fear, right?
Yeah,
That's it right there, man.
yeah.
One of the
You know what?
scariest
That's
aliens in pop culture, right there.
you've nailed it right there, and that's you don't need to create Peanut Butter Man as a
No.
horror villain now. You can just reference the face hugger, and it's and there's actually so much in that show. It's a bit of an offshoot, but like the fact that they brought in other types of aliens and the thing that those aliens did to people.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm
I don't know
about
how far
halfway
in you
through
are
it
now,
right
but that
now.
was like brilliantly done.
Yeah,
Like it's yeah, that's a great show for those who are looking to watch that or watch
yeah.
something that
I
really
want to
plays on
see
fear.
more. I want to see more from this octopus eye. That thing's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it gets into play a lot through the series, so don't you worry.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then, any kind of closing thoughts on this, then, Kenton? Like,
Well, again, like with everything too, we've went over this before and stuff, but really the underlying thing, like this show is designed to talk about fears and expose people to these phobias and to discuss them and to analyze their effect on our pop culture and our storytelling, which I think we've done.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's about mental health. So if again, if you're suffering, if you have a phobia, if you feel like that your life and your quality of life is being affected, please reach out. Please seek some assistance. As with all phobias, cognitive behavioral therapy, exposure therapy, there's ways to help. So
there is, and it's something. Being scared is we get it. Everyone has a fear, but you don't. I know far too many people who've let their fears cripple them
control their life. Yeah.
and control their life and really hurt their quality of life. And as far as any of us know, we only get to do this once. So why would you want to have anything limit your enjoyment of it? So
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely deal with that. Unless you're afraid of snakes, which we haven't got to that yet. But
Yes, no, we'll touch on that at some point here, or the
yeah.
giant wolf spider that was running around here before between our calls, there was a giant spider running around on my floor, and now it's gone. I don't know where it is.
Did we do arachnophobia in the first season?
No, we did not, but we have not yet. And when we do it, I really want to try to convince my son to come on because he has arachnophobia and like to the point where we were playing Dungeons and Dragons one time and I put a giant spider figurine on the table for them to fight and he didn't even want to touch his model or nothing. He was just did not like that at all.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Maybe we'll even do that next week. We'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll
Sounds
figure out.
good.
Anyways, until then, we'll be back next week with more fear. But I'm Jason.
And I'm Kenton.
Talk to you then.